chapter number 11, page number 209, the last paragraph. The separatist and the loyalist tendencies among the section of the educated Muslims and the big Muslim Nawabs and the landlords reached a climax in 1906 when All India Muslim League was founded under the leadership of Aga Khan. The Nawab of Dhaka and the Nawab Mohsin ul Mulk, founded as a loyalist, communal and conservative political organization, the Muslim League, made no critique of colonialism, supported the partition of Bengal and demanded special safeguards for the Muslims in the government services. Later, with the help of Lord Minto, the Viceroy, it put forward and secured the acceptance of the demand for separate electorates. Thus, while the National Congress was taking up anti-imperialist economic political issues, the Muslim League and its reactionary leaders preached that the interests of Muslims were different from those of Hindus. The Muslim League's political activities were directed not against the foreign rulers but against the Hindus and the National Congress. Hereafter, the League began to oppose every nationalist and democratic demand of the Congress. It thus played into the hands of the British, who announced that they would protect the special interests of Muslims. The League soon became one of the main instruments with which the British hoped to fight the rising nationalist movement and to keep the emerging intelligentsia among Muslims from joining the national movement. To increase its usefulness, the British also encouraged the Muslim League to approach the Muslim masses and to assume their leadership. It is true that the nationalist movement was also dominated at this time by educated downtown dwellers, but its anti-imperialism, it was representing the interests of all Indians, rich or poor, Hindu or Muslim. On the other hand, the Muslim League and its upper class leaders had little in common with the interests of the Muslim masses, who were suffering as much as the Hindu masses at the hands of foreign imperialism. The basic weakness of the League came to be increasingly recognized by the patriotic Muslims. The educated Muslim young men were in particularly attracted by radical nationalist ideas. The militancy nationalist Arhar movement was founded at the time under the leadership of Maulana Muhammad Ali, Hakim Ajmal Khan, Hassan Imam, Maulana Zafar Ali Khan, and Mazarul Haq. These young men disliked the loyalist politics of the Aligarh school and the big Nawabs and Zamindars. Moved by modern ideas of self-government, they advocated active participation in the militant nationalist movement. Similar nationalist sentiments were arising among a section of the traditional Muslim scholars led by the Deoband school. The most prominent of these scholars was young Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, who propagated his rationalist and nationalist ideas in the newspaper Al-Hilal, which brought out in 1912 at the age of 24. Maulana Muhammad Ali and Azad and other young men preached a message of courage and fearlessness and said that there was no conflict between Islam and nationalism. In 1911, war broke out between the Ottoman Empire in Turkey and Italy, and during 1912 and 13, Turkey began to fight the Balkan powers. The Turkish ruler claimed at this time to be also the caliph or religious head of all Muslims. Moreover, nearly of all Muslim holy places were situated within the Turkish Empire. A wave of sympathy for Turkey swept India. A medical mission headed by Dr. M. A. Ansari was sent to help Turkey, since Britain's policy during the Balkan War and after was not sympathetic to Turkey. The pro-Turkey and the pro-Caliph or Caliphate sentiments tended to become anti-imperialist. In fact, for several years from 1912 to 24, the loyalists among the Muslim leagues were completely overshadowed by nationalist young men. Unfortunately, with the exception of a few persons like Azad, who were rationalists in their thinking, most of the militant nationalists among Muslim young men also did not fully accept the modern secular approach to politics. The result was that the most important issue they took up was not political independence but protection of the holy places and of the Turkish Empire. Instead of understanding and opposing the economic and political consequences of imperialism, they fought imperialism on the ground that it threatened the caliph and the holy places. Even their sympathy for Turkey was on religious grounds. Their political appeal was to religious sentiments. Moreover, the heroes and the myths and the cultural traditions they appealed to belonged not to ancient or medieval Indian history but to West Asian history. It is true that this approach did not immediately clash with Indian nationalism, rather, it made its adherents and supporters anti imperialist and encouraged the nationalist trend among urban Muslims. But in the long run, this approach too proved harmful as it encouraged the habit of looking at political questions from a religious viewpoint. In any case, such political activity did not promote among the Muslim masses a modern secular approach towards political and economic questions. Simultaneously, Hindu communalism was also being born and Hindu communal ideas were arising. Many Hindu writers and political workers echoed the ideas and program of Muslim communalism and Muslim League. From the 1870s, a section of Hindu zamindars, moneylenders, and middle class professionals began to arouse anti Muslim sentiments. Fully accepting the colonial view of Indian history, they talked and wrote about the tyrannical Muslim rule in the medieval period and the liberating role of the British in saving Hindus from Muslim oppression. In UP and Bihar, they took up correctly the question of Hindi but gave it a communal twist, declaring totally and historically that Urdu was the language of Muslims and Hindi of Hindus. All over India, anti cow slaughter propaganda was undertaken in the early 1890s. The campaign was, however, primarily directed not against the British but against Muslims. The British cantonments, for example, were left free to carry on cow slaughter on a large scale. The Punjab Hindu Sabha was founded in 1909. Its leaders attacked the National Congress for trying to unite Indians into a single nation. They opposed the Congress's anti-imperialistic policies. Instead, they argued that Hindus should placate the foreign government in their fight against Muslims. One of its leaders, Lal Chandra, declared that Hindus should believe that he was a Hindu first and an Indian later. The first session of the All India Hindu Mahasabha was held in April 1915 under the presidency of Maharaja of Kasim Bazar. But it remained for years a rather weak organization. One reason was the greater weight of the influence of modern secular intelligentsia and the middle class among Hindus. Among Muslims, on the other hand, landlords, bureaucrats, and traditional religious leaders still exercised dominant influence. Moreover, the colonial government gave Hindu communalism few concessions and little support, for it relied heavily on Muslim communalism and could not easily simultaneously placate both communities, both communalisms. Thank you for joining, and we will be starting with the nationalists and the First World War in the next video. Thank you and all the best for the exams. Do like, share, and subscribe the channel if you haven't not yet. And thank you everyone for listening till the end.